Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Tuesday, April 30th, the last day of the month, right? And we start May. May flowers. So, I thought I'd talk a little bit about owning a business and running a business because it takes two types of people, and you have to have those traits. And that goes for if you're employing people or if you happen to be an employee. What businesses are looking for and what business owners are looking for out of you. So stay tuned. So, welcome back. If you didn't already know it, my name is Eric, and this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. We put out a video in the morning. I try to by 7 o'clock, and it's also available on podcast. But we normally have something going up every day for your viewing entertainment, and hopefully you're learning something that is of value to you. Because if I can't say it and stress it enough with the channel, when I'm talking about things, it's giving you advice. And what is it? What does advice really boil down to? It's take what you can use from what I'm talking about and applying it to your business. You don't need to take the whole thing and try to make it your own because it won't work. You have to take parts of and find a place for it within your business, right? Or if you're just starting out, or if it comes to personal development, stuff like that. What Amos got me to thinking, about because he had said in a comment to me that you had said in a comment to me, Amos, that it was hard because if you signed the front of a paycheck, which just means you sign the check for the employee, they sign the back, you sign the front. If you're a business owner doing payroll, that it's hard to try to get away because the people that you've left in power while you're away aren't committed. They aren't as committed as you are. And I've seen both sides of the fence there, Amos. I've seen horrible business owners that still made money coming in. Employees hated them with a passion, and they run like a tyrant. But that's their ship. They're the captain. If you don't like the way the captain likes to run the ship, get off the ship. There's more than one ship that sails every day. But it reminded me of my brother-in-law, Pete. And this is kind of paying homage to him of he never had that desire like I did. And I used to tell him, Pete, you're so smart. He was a couple years older than I am. And I tell him, why don't you start your own business? And he said he really never had any desire to. What could he accomplish by starting a business that he couldn't accomplish by taking a business that was in trouble and pulling it out of the depths? So, well, the difference could be you could make more profit and you'd have ownership. And he found the best of both worlds. His attitude was always, and I've learned a lot from him, but his attitude was, and that's what gave me the attitude years ago, is he never competed with anybody. He didn't feel the need to compete with you. He was just Pete. He knew what he knew, and what he tried to be is better than he was the day before. And he loved business. He originally he worked for a number of companies as their chief financial officer, CFO. And that meant he ran all of the financials. The year-end audits with the IRS, to purchasing, to how much was going out and how much was going in, coming into the business. And he used to write a lot of bids and contracts with even the U.S. government for products that those businesses that he went to help sold. He understood what the customer wanted. And he understood that in order to retain that customer, the product had to be what the customer wanted it to be. And many a times, the prior ownership cheapened the product down to try to make more money, that the customer became dissatisfied and stopped taking their bids. But in order for Pete to go in and take on these businesses that were in the red and ready to file bankruptcy, is he had to be kind of a micromanager. And see, now that is just the totally opposite of me. When I'm hiring people, I expect a certain standard, And the biggest thing for me is trust. Could I trust this employee with $1,000 sitting on the table on my desk all day? And if the answer was no, then sorry. You may be good at what you do, but I gotta have that level of trust. And I understand, the bigger you get, the harder it is. Because now you can't select, 4 or 5 here or there. Now you're looking at 50, 100, 200 employees, depending on how big your business is or was, right? But one of the main things I can remember him telling me, because he would come to me and ask for advice from a business owner's stance. And I can remember the last one that he worked for before he passed away with COVID related here just under 2 years ago. He was 63, 64, still working full time. But he used to ask me, he said, you as a business owner, do you golf a lot? Are you on the water fishing a lot during the day? Are you doing your own thing? And I said, where are you going with this, Pete? And he said, well, the last owner that he worked for was really bad in the red. But he didn't have an eye for business. He had the money to buy a business, but to actually run it was something totally different. And he thought just simply ownership, the business kind of would run itself. So 3 to 4 times a week, he'd be out golfing with his buddies or out on his yacht, jet setting around the ocean on Long Island. And his employees started doing the same thing, same mindset, that they didn't feel they had to work to get a paycheck. If the owner don't care, why should I care? And that can trickle down, honestly. If you are a business owner and you have a number of employees, they're watching you. And are you putting in as much time as they are? Or are you off golfing? And some of you can say, well, I earned my way to that point And I built the business. I should have that time for me to go golf if I want to go golf, right? That's fine as long as you have a Pete that can take over your business, that can take the reins. Because Pete is acting like a proper business owner should act. And that is, your employees are watching and listening to what you're saying and doing. If you don't have the energy to put into a business that it needs to have on a daily basis, to encourage your employees to work as hard as you do, then maybe it's time to sell that business. You know, I see a lot of business owners that all of a sudden have all this time to go golf and put fancy lettering on their trucks and all this other crap, only to fail in the end. And those guys, if you look at them, they have a lot of failed businesses that they started and they thought they could rush right to the top of their golfing game when the business was still in its infancy. So what you got to look at is your employees are watching you, and if you're not willing and you're not committed, then you need somebody like Pete to take over your business. They are out there, and they thrive on this. He thrived on it. He would sit down for the first 2 to 3 weeks and go through all the financials. Where's the money coming from? Where's the money going? How many products are we making a day? Why aren't we getting bids? Why aren't we getting contracts? Right down to micromanaging the sales department of 4 employees there, and not a one of them out there pounding the street to try to get work. They sat in their offices waiting for work to come to them because they had the attitude that the boss had, the owner. Is why should we have to bust our hump and do, telephone calls and meetings and everything else to potential customers to get more work? He don't care, so why should we care? And that's a bad attitude, honestly. And if you're an employee and you do that, it says more about you than it does the business owner. It tells me that you're not one that I would really want for an employee, that is not a self-starter, doesn't want to climb the ladder and isn't content just collecting a paycheck for doing nothing. And that's what Pete did. Pete would go through each department, and he gave them so much time. Either you start producing, or I'm going to have to let you go and get somebody else in there. And some of these guys were buddies with the owner and didn't think Pete had the power. A couple of them tried pushing back, running to the owner. And the owner would come to Pete. Pete would tell him, either I have control or you have control, one or the other. Because the way it's been working for you is squat. You're in the red, you're ready to file bankruptcy. Do you want to continue running it your way, or you want to try a new way? If you want to try a new way, then you need to step back and let me deal with these guys, not you. And that business owner called those guys back and said, Pete's in charge. What Pete says goes. It's the only way you can make it work. And he went through that 150 plus employee business and thinned a lot of people out. It wasn't based on age, fitness. It was based on the desire and the willingness and the ability to get the job done and willing to do it. And most of the employees needed was encouragement from the top that they counted, that they mattered, instead of worrying about the business closing that day. They wanted long-term employment. None of them hated the business owner that owned the business. He was a great guy. But you can't be a great guy all the time and run a business. Because if you are, I'm telling you right now, you will have employees walk all over you. Especially the ones that think that they are your buddies. I equate it to parenting. I know, me and my examples, right? But as a parent, I am not going to be my son or daughter's best friend while they're growing up to home. I'm not. Because the best friend is unwilling or unable to put in place disciplinary things. And as a parent, my job is to keep my children safe, provide them an environment where they could learn and grow. And my job was to set boundaries. And I can tell you, if you've never raised kids before, no matter what your boundary is, they're going to test it and test it and test it. And if you don't ever have any boundary with any teeth in it for disciplinary, then they have no reason to not test it and blow you off. And I hear so many parents of young girls and boys say, oh, I'm their best friend, or the kids saying, my mom is my best friend. No, she's not. If she is your best friend, there's something wrong with this relationship. Now, when you get older in life and your mom still isn't your best friend, but now instead of being the disciplinary person, she can be on a different level with you, right? And a lot of times she can help you if you're raising kids. But while you're in the home, no, we're not our kids' best friends. And if you run a business, you can't select good friends per se. Because those are the ones that will take advantage of you the most and your niceness to them. But getting back to that sales department, they were kind of button heads with Pete. And Pete's like, what's the best way to approach them? To get it across that I want work coming in. We need work coming in. And they're part of our group of 4 that go out and pound the pavement for work, make cold calls, work with the government, purchasing, write bids. That was all part of the sales department. And the biggest thing I asked Pete was, are they qualified to do that job? Because I've seen people get put into positions because the owner is their buddy. And that can lead to bad morale for the rest of that department. If they're watching the buddy of the owner do squat, a lot of times they aren't willing to put in the effort. See, it's that trickle down thing again, right? Is if you're not willing to put in the time, why should somebody else put in the time to help you grow your business? And the answer is, you have every right to take time off and do what you want to do if you built that business up to where it's running on its own. But if you're running the business into the ground and it's headed for bankruptcy, if you asked me if I thought you were a good business owner, I'd say, hell no. Somewhere you should have been putting the brakes on. Somewhere you should have been taking control back. But back to the sales department with Pete, I said, look, if they're qualified, give them a chance. and you've got a number of options on the table. You can bring in someone, hire a new employee, and put them head of sales, because they had a guy that was head of sales. And then they had, the three guys under him that would report to him. And then he would report to the business owner, but now he was reporting to Pete. I said, you can either hire somebody fresh off the street that's a go-getter and put them in that position of being the head sales. That's one option. But you're going to cause a rift with the other four that you already have there. You can take the guy that's got the least amount of years of the four and put him in charge and see if anything will change. But most often the case is it won't make any changes. It'll cause a rift because now the one with the least amount of experience is running the department, and the one that's got the most experience is expected to be just a little peon, right? The other option, get rid of them all. Give them all the pink slips all at the same time. But before you do that, make sure you have people in place that you can bring in to take over. But like I was saying, Pete was a micromanager, and you have to be that way when you're trying to rescue a business. And what he ended up doing was basically running the sales department. He let 3 of the 4 go. He kept the one with the least amount of time because he hadn't gotten that attitude issue and his willingness to do what Pete told him to do. Pete was there before any employee ever showed up, and he was there well after every employee left in the afternoon, 5 o'clock. I know during tax time, audit time, all that, he would work 7 days a week. He'd go in on a Saturday and work, and then take work home on a Sunday, trying to get things finished up. If you can't be a business owner and run your ship right, you need to find someone like Pete. You can't have it both ways. And with you, Amos, you put your time in, your blood, sweat, and tears, and for you and the wife to be able to go and enjoy yourself, I totally agree. But you didn't have a Pete at the helm that had the same vision you have and the willingness to be the number 2 guy, but be the number 1 guy when you're away. And if you're an employee of somebody instead of a business owner, just think about that. Can you be that number 2 guy that can do and maintain that as the number 1 guy when the number 1 guy wants to step away for a while? And that reminds me of back when I worked at the mines. I went in and I was asking for a raise. And the CEO, I sat down in his office. His name was Larry. And he said, "Eric, why should I give you a raise?" And the wrong answers were, well, because Joe Schmo is making more money than me, or this or that. It's my abilities, what I've learned, the value I have for the company, and I'm trying to show you instead of tell you how valuable I am. And that was his take, is don't tell me, show me. And did Larry golf? Yes. But he wasn't the owner. He was the CEO of that company. But he liked my attitude. He's the one that got me the job in the first place, because he watched what I did instead of what I said. He knew that I would always give it that 110%. And that's what you need if you're running a business. If you're an employee, you need to show your business owner, your CEO, your managers, and everybody else involved that you are committed to that business and you want it to succeed. Because if it succeeds, that means long-term employment. If it doesn't succeed, you're out on the street looking for another job. So on that note, you guys have a great Tuesday. And we'll see you here bright and early Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning.